Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, 4 nerds by nerds, hanging out with this nerd.
Nerdarchy Ted.
Damage dealers drop more dice, but not in this D&D party. We're going to start this video by thanking our sponsor, Easy Roller Dice. Whether it's your first set of dice or your 1 millionth set of dice, Easy Roller Dice for all your dice rolling needs. Down in the description, you can find a link to easyrollerdice.com/nerdarchy and also a whopping 20% discount. Go check out and get yourself some Easy Roller Dice.
All right, so we're going to continue this series about what to do when you're lacking some of those party rolls.
Yes, running D&D games without the party rolls filled, exactly. So we've done the healer, we've done the tank. So that now we're at your DPS or striker. If you're playing video games, MMOs, it's a DPS. But if you're playing 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons, they renamed it a striker.
Right. So this is a guy that does a lot of damage, and without that heavy hitter, sometimes it's hard to get through those encounters.
Well, it's not just a lot of damage because there's definitely classes that do a lot of damage, but it's spread out. Mm-hmm. But this is a lot of concentrated damage in a small area. So this is going to primarily be your rogue, your ranger. You could do it with a warlock, as well as, I would say, battlemaster fighter as well.
And I mean, your barbarian tends to hit pretty hard as well. So some want to incorporate that into here.
Yeah, and that's the funny thing too and paladin, right?
Yeah,
paladin was never really one of those as well, but paladin and rogues probably hit the hardest in the game. 5e really blurs the lines between party roles like no other edition did. Even when we weren't calling them out for what they were, they still kind of existed. Mm-hmm. But with 5e, there's a lot of overlap, and it is a lot easier to do without any of the party roles. But this one can be a little bit tough, and it also provides some unique challenges that we'll get into towards the end.
Right. So if you're running without this, since this primarily is looked at as a rogue thing, you also then you wind up losing your sneak, your scout.
Not having your rogue or your strikers is going to create some interesting challenges for you both as a DM and as a player.
All right, so let's get into the DM angle first. So if your party does not have hard hitters, monsters that have tanks worth of hit points are things that you probably want to avoid. Here you can probably do far more lesser, weaker monsters, because let's face it, you're going to have other party members. You're probably going to have your controller, so fireballs and burning hands could possibly just clear out swaths of enemies because they all have low hit points.
Yeah, like your fireball is a great spell. It's a strong spell for 3rd level. In 5e, they intentionally wanted fireball to be cool, so they made it actually stronger than other 3rd level spells. But still, when you get to that big bad guy or just a tough monster, it's generally not as effective. It's really good at covering a large area and spreading out a lot of damage. So, in that case, like you said, as a GM, you're probably able to throw a lot of smaller monsters at the party, and they're going to do better with it. Because they don't have that striker role filled, they probably have more of the other things that are going to be able to attack, different angles and cover more area. Where you're going to struggle as a DM or from the player side as well, is when you throw that big monster with a wall of hit points, that it's going to be a slogfest because you don't have the rogue or the paladin that's just going to zap it for like 80 points of damage in one strike. That's a huge difference, because paladins and rogues and rangers and warlocks, they all get to roll a lot of dice. And they, generally can roll it on the same target. Warlock spreads the love a little bit more. Same with Battlemaster, but your ranger and your rogue, it's like one thing is getting, and paladin as well, is going to get all that goodness in one strike, and that's where all the dice come from. And another place that it really shows too is in crits, right? When you get a crit with a paladin or a rogue that's sneak attacking, that's a game changer. And everyone knows if you're playing a paladin and you roll that 20, you're like, yeah, smite.
Yeah,
on top of that.
You're absolutely going to use your highest level smite that you think is going to just drop this creature. And that's kind of what it's designed for. with the rogue, you decide, okay, I'm going to sneak attack on the hit. You're only getting one attack around, so when that crit happens, yay, it's great. Unless you're using your bonus action to throw something or fire a bow, whatever. But your paladin, they can choose to smite after they've been successful. In earlier editions of D&D, when you are incorporating a spell into your attack, you choose it, and if you miss, you've wasted the spell. That's not how it works with 5e. So, okay, I roll my attack. I hit. All right, I'm going to drop a smite. Oh, I crit. I'm going to drop the highest level smite I can and seriously put the hurting on this, because it's like that's a chunk of d8s to slam down that enemy's throat.
Yeah, with the removal of the rogue and the paladin from this mix, you've just removed a lot of dice off the table regularly, not even talking about smites.
Right.
So the question is, as a player, what can we do about this? How can we mitigate some of this stuff?
Well, I mean, you have to you always have to look at your tactics and look at what is the party composition, both as players at the table and characters that they're playing, and use appropriate tactics regardless of what roles you have. That's always something that you should be doing. But apart from that, you have to look at, well, how can I replace some of those lost features? And spells and feats are a good place to go.
Yeah, I mean, kind of dropping back to the tactics a little bit, you're going to want to do more gang up tactics. Like that's always a good idea in D&D type games anyway, even though thematically it doesn't make sense a lot of times. But and more so when you don't have that striker in your midst, like the paladin or the rogue could go one on one someone and probably take them out of the fight pretty fast. But your fighter, while he can last and he can hang and bang all day long, he's not doing enough damage, So he's gonna want help. You're gonna need to kind of gang up on those monsters to eliminate them faster, so you aren't taking as much damage and you're getting rid of them. So that is definitely a thing to consider when you're playing. And like you said, tactics are always going to matter.
Yeah, watching a lot of D&D streams online, it's always amusing to see what that party's tactics are going to be. And every time that I see the party splitting their damage, I'm like, but focus fire, focus fire. And I honestly I have done this, and I mean it happened this past week, and I'm like, all right, you guys should be trying to get all the damage on this one thing, drop him, and move to the next.
Doesn't always go that way. And sometimes like you want it to be more like a story and you want to take on things, but at the same time it's also a game. So it's like finding the right balance between those things. So we had mentioned there's some other things. There's feats and spells that can kind of help pile on the damage and help you out if you don't have someone to give you those extra dice. There's a couple feats that come to mind.
So if you go with Martial Adept, you're going to get some, superiority die and some maneuvers. It's not much, but once a short rest, you're going to be able to throw on some extra damage without anything really going into it. Not bad if you take the damaging maneuver, that is, anyway. If you go with Magic Initiate, you could go Warlock and be able to get Hex. That's going to allow you to be doing more damage over the course of a battle. Just being able to Hex as a bonus action and then moving your Hex over the course of the battle. Again, not bad. And, you'd get some cantrips to go along with it. And we all know, the best Warlock cantrip out there is Eldritch Blast. You can Hex and Blast, and yay, great.
Yeah, it definitely gives you options. And especially if you're playing a character like a fighter who gets a lot of attacks anyway, for one fight, when you decide to cast your Hex, every time you get to attack, you're going to be able to take advantage of that and roll that extra dice of damage. If you happen to be fighting with two weapons, again, at the upper levels, you're looking at adding a lot of extra dice in the mix. Then being a fighter, you have action surge, so you can combine this to great effect. So for at least one encounter, you could kind of be like a striker, if you don't happen to be a battle master, which is the striker-ish build of the fighter.
Mm-hmm.
But even if you are, by adding that, actually both of those would benefit you, increase the amount of dice you get to throw down on the table overall, and it would help a lot.
So the other things that you want to be able to look at is, as I said, are spells and things that are going to allow you to do more damage, or take more attacks. Haste. If you take the attack action, you're going to get that extra. You go with magic weapon, you're going to be able to hurt things that require those magic weapons to be hit.
And you get plus to hit and damage. It doesn't hurt either.
The little bit of extra, is not bad. Flame arrow, you could enchant a quiver, and if your DM is cool with it, multiple people could be drawing out of the same quiver. I mean, you still have the restriction of the limited number of pieces of ammunition affected by it, but you're getting the effect of that spell out quicker.
Yeah, I mean, you do get a decent amount of ammunition, and you can bump the spell to get even more. So maybe if you do have two characters that are capable of making ranged attacks with that ammunition, you can make it last and get a little bit more out of it. And also too, because I believe it's a wizard spell. I don't know if anyone else gets it or not, but the wizard casts that, it enhances other members in the party right early on, and throughout the battle they just keep using that, and then he can go to blasting things.
Right.
There's another good one is Flame Shield. Now this is self, so unless you have another way of getting it on you, and other than being a wizard, it might be one. It might actually, I think it's even too high level to get as an Eldritch Knight, so you're never gonna dip into it. But a wizard can get it, and just be in proximity of the enemy he or she will be able to do more damage to the foes around them. So again, it's a passive ability. It doesn't require concentration, which is always a plus, and it also has some protective abilities as well. So it covers a couple of different angles. So I think that's the spells off the top of my head that I found that you could definitely use to enhance your striking ability.
Now, the other thing you want to look at is lacking of party roles. There's stuff missing, therefore tactics need to change, and you might want to rest, take a short rest between encounters more often. Doing so is going to refresh those short rest abilities. Your non-battle master fighters are going to get their action surge back. Your cleric is going to wind up getting his channel divinity back, and whatever other things you might be getting, you refresh them, and you'll be able to handle more things in that next encounter.
Yeah. We also forgot to mention the monk is probably another really strikery kind of character. I know someone's going to say it in the comments, so I'll throw it out there for you. But
everything is everything. There we go. It's covered.
But okay, now that being said, the one final problem that you encounter, and the controller suffers from the same thing. Generally, the person that is the controller or the striker, they also cover some other roles that are kind of important as well. Either you have your skill rolls, and especially with the striker, you have your stealth rolls.
Right. So if your striker, your DPS is going to be your ranger, going to be your rogue, it's going to be the person out there who's stealthing and scouting out, trying to make sure that everything is safe, dealing with those locks, those traps. These are a serious problem for both the DM and the party, because it's difficult to properly plan and manage without this.
Yeah, you might have to use your spellcasters with divination spells in order to find some of these problems, in order to circumnavigate them. The DM, you might come up with different kinds of traps, puzzles, and hazards that are spottable, or they leave clues so that your players can have a chance to try and overcome them, even though those roles aren't filled. It might be more difficult for them, or you might just cut them out of your game, or make them less lethal. These are all options that could work.
You use less traps and or weaker traps, makes it a little bit more interesting, that the danger element is still there, but it's not as you're not looking for that, oh, this is a I kill you trap. It's a, oh, I injure you a little bit. Those traps that, oh, it hucks a dagger, so it does a D4, as opposed to the heavy crossbow that was going to do a D10.
Now, also from spells, we said, divination can cover up some weak spots, but so can some other spells that are gonna help you with your skill checks, help you with stealthing. There's some really good ones too.
So, Pass Without Trace is a party-based spell, and it gives just a flat +10 if you're within proximity of the caster. And this is going to stack if somebody else casts enhance ability. So if you go pass without trace, enhance ability, dexterity, now you're rolling with advantage with a +10, and you can get ridiculous numbers with that particular combination. You can add guidance along with that. And let's face it, if you go with invisibility or greater invisibility, you don't even need to worry about it.
Right, and there's also things like knock, arcane lock, that where you can maybe do some things that the rogue might have taken care of before.
Locate traps.
Yeah, I mean the problem with knock is a little bit loud, but
okay.
we've done away with this lock, but they all know we're here. From the DM side of things as well with this stuff missing, like you might not want to do stealth or heist adventures.
Yeah, you gotta plan your material for the characters that are at the table or the characters that are taking part in the session. Because to not to do so, you're winding up creating problems. Unless it's like, well, this is how I run, this is what I'm doing. Be lenient.
So the other place is items.
So number one, there's always going to be magic items that are going to, hey, I found this cool thing. I now have, these super sweet rogue abilities, enchanted lockpicks or any of those kind of things. But even in the DMG, you've got Cloak of Elvenkind. There's I think boosts of the same, so you can go with any of those. But I mean, even some mundane items are going to be helpful. If you just get vials of acid, any lock that you can't pick, can you just melt out of your way?
Yeah, there's definitely things like that you can do. And as a final addendum, I would say there are obstacles that are going to be more difficult for this kind of party, and I would still throw them in, just maybe more sparingly, so that they have more impact when they're there and it's less of an annoyance. But then again, it's your game. You can run it however you like.
So, what do you have in your party? Are you missing any party roles? Do you have any cool stories you want to share? Down in the comments below, go ahead and share. While you're down there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
While you're heading down in the comments, stop by the description where you can find that link and that one-time promo code, the Easy Roller Dice.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.